No. Just kidding, I knew that was there. Hi everyone, we are going to do a tutorial for the Sketchbook application on Windows using my Surface Pro. It is a little bent out of shape, as you can see on screen. My screen itself is actually pretty busted. It's a little bit cracked. I did maybe kind of sort of drop it at some point, and I have the screen protector on here that's holding all these pieces down, so it's still good to use. I am telling you this just in case there are any issues with drawing on the screen. If it shows up on the screen capture as having any kind of issues following the pen with the pen pressure sensitivity or the software's responsiveness, it isn't actually anything to do with the software itself. It's most likely something to do with the current condition of my touchscreen. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about Autodesk Sketchbook. Right now, I have this currently set to the default setting. So when you very first open up Sketchbook after downloading it, this is the way your interface is going to be laid out. We have this toolbar right across the top of screen that will give us access to all the different functions in this program. On the right of screen, we have our color editor, and underneath that is the layers editor. If you notice this blue circle next to the word background, it probably shows up white for you when you very first open your program, but I don't like to really draw on a white screen if I can help it, because that's a lot of bright light going into your eyeballs and creating eye strain. And if you're going to be drawing a lot, especially digitally, what I have found is very useful is to change the color of your canvas background. And you can always change this toward the end to, if you wanted to have like a neutral gray background, or maybe you've painted in a complete background, or if you just want to have a plain white background behind your drawing at the completion of your drawing before you export your final. You can go in here and modify that at any point in time. And lastly, on the left side of your screen is this other toolbar, and this is your brush editor. And right here at the very top, if you see these little squares, hovering over it has highlighted the word brush library. Tap on that and you're going to pull up the brush library, where it's going to have a lot more brushes for you to choose from other than what is showing on the toolbar to the left. And you can just exit out of that by tapping on that red dot in the top right corner of the brush library. And the same goes for all of the different menus I have up on screen. So if I wanted to exit all of these menus, I certainly can do that to clear some space on my screen. But don't worry, if you've X'd out of something, whether intentionally or on accident, you can always bring it back up by going up here to your top toolbar and clicking on this UI toggle button, and there are going to be your extra windows that have been minimized. So if I wanted to bring my layer editor back, which I always do, I always like to work on multiple layers. I like to keep my layer editor up on screen, and the brush editor, and you just tap on that top corner to turn it back into a puck, and that puck can be dragged around the screen and tucked into a corner just like this. That way it is out of your way and you're maximizing your desk space. Now, if you really wanted to be able to minimize and repopulate those windows a lot quicker than what I just did, this little handy dandy double arrow up here says toggle full screen on and off. Let's go ahead and click that, and now what we are seeing is just the drawing canvas itself and none of the toolbars that I had a moment ago. And if we click on this again, we can bring those right back. So let's jump back in here and test out a couple different things. First and foremost, I'm going to go up here to the top toolbar and look at this first menu. If I click on that, this is how I'm going to be able to start a new sketch. Click on the arrow to the right side, you'll be able to customize your canvas. But if you don't tap on that arrow specifically, you just hit new sketch, it will go ahead and start a new canvas for you using your previous canvas size or your default canvas size. Other things you can do from here, you can open a new image or open an image to start a new project. So now I've opened an image that I have drawn previously, and now if I wanted to save this, I can go to the same menu, click save, and the file type that Autodesk Sketchbook works in by default is TIFF files, and this way you're able to save all of your layer information. Even after you close it, you'll be able to open it back up again, and the layers will still be intact. They're not going to be collapsed as if it were saved as a JPEG or a TIFF. Other things you can do is save a copy in case you wanted to do like save points. So if you had a version of your project that you were working on that you're really satisfied with, or you're really split on a decision in what direction you want to take it, you could always save as and create a version 2 and then explore the kind of changes that you're thinking about making. And then if you ever decide that you wanted to try something different from that last save point, you're able to go back to the original file. That's just something that I think is helpful, especially when you're indecisive. Once you're ready to collapse all your layers into your final image, you're not going to want to hit save or save a copy. You're going to want to hit export here. And this way, instead of just having the option to save as a TIFF, you'll have other file types that you can save this as. And looking really quickly at that little eyes, that is our preferences. And this is some interesting stuff. Pen sensitivity, if you are using any type of a tablet. If you need to troubleshoot issues that you're experiencing with pen sensitivity or a lack thereof, you can go right in here to your preferences, check under general that pen mode is enabled. Another thing I found very interesting here for this version of Autodesk Sketchbook is the option to enable these gesture modes, which is a 3-finger swipe to toggle your undos and redos. I know for a lot of Procreate users, the double tap for an edit undo is one of their favorite features, and they're adamant against using softwares that do not have that functionality. So here we do have a gesture functionality for your edit undo, and that is a 3-finger swipe. And last on this first menu item, but certainly not least, is the help button where the question mark is. If you tap on that, it's going to give you a really nice overview of the basics of your software. So anything that you might have questions about, or if you just forgot what it may be, you can always go here, and that will definitely shortcut you to some of the answers that you need. Speaking of gestures, here, real quick, here are some of the gestures you can use, and some of the really handy ones are the pan and zoom ones. Woo! Got through it. So next on here is your edit undo button and your redo button right here on the top toolbar. So if you aren't going to use that 3-finger swipe, you can always just tap these little icons up here on the top of your toolbar. Here we have the selection tools, especially for Photoshop users who are incredibly used to using this Lasso tool for a lot of their work and are looking for another software to use that perhaps will save them a little bit of money. Autodesk is free to use, no subscription, no fees attached. Next to the Lasso tool is also the square selection tool, and we have the magic wand. So if you would like to use the magic wand, this is something I use in Photoshop that I've never even used in Sketchbook before because I didn't know that it was here, since I'm usually drawing on my Mac and not on my Surface Pro. This is a beautiful feature, sample all layers, so don't sleep on that. That is a beautiful feature in the Fill Bucket tool, and I'm sure it is a beautiful feature here with the selection tools as well. Right next to the selection tools is the transform tool, and I'm going to try to dash through this as quickly as possible. The first being the distort tool, which is really great if you've drawn an object that you want to make look three-dimensional. I know this guy sitting here isn't the greatest example, but let's go ahead and assume that this was a photograph and I want to set it on a desk. So I don't know why the desk is blue. Let's make it more of a desk color. We'll make it brown. So let's say that I have this photograph on this desk pushed back against this wall. We'll make the wall more of a cream colored wall. One of the ways we can do that is with this transform distort tool, because what was previously filling the frame is now pushed back on the corners here and makes it look like it's slanted away from the right edge. Next to that is the nudge tool, so we're able to just grab this and move things, really pan with them left, right, or up and down. Let's say I have this square and I want to duplicate it because I want to put one on the opposite side. But I want to make sure that they stay level with each other. One way we can do that is by using this pan tool, this nudge tool, and I can just pan this directly across. And now, without having to eyeball it whatsoever, I know that these are completely level. Another way to put it on the other side of the screen is actually to hit this flip horizontally button, and that does the same thing. It lets me know that this is entirely level. It's also equal distance from the edges here. So this part right here, from here to here, is going to be the same on this side as it is on that side if I'm using the flip horizontal tool. Besides flip horizontal, I'll say I don't want to go left to right, I want to go up to down. You can also flip up to down with the flip vertically transform tool. We also have a rotate counterclockwise, and it does it in 45-degree increments, which is really nice. And of course, the other arrow pointing the opposite direction clockwise is going to just reverse that flow. Once I'm satisfied with the transformation, always just click this green check mark. That's going to save it. If you don't like the transformation, you can always get out of it by hitting the X button. Let's talk about the fill bucket tool next. I've already shown you the basic uses of this earlier using the solid fill, but you do have more options if you want to be a little bit more fancy with it. You can use this gradient fill. I have this gradient going white to black, but I am able to change this. So if you watched one of my other videos and got frustrated because you weren't able to change your gradient colors by tapping on the circles like you would do on the Mac or on the iPad, that's okay. The way you change your gradient colors here is on the color editor. So now if I've tapped on that puck that I want to change, this top one, I can go down here and use the scale. If I want to use that grayscale, I can go up here and choose a color directly out of the color wheel itself. And if there's a puck on your gradient that you do not want, you would like to remove it, just click and drag it right off of the line and it is gone just like magic. Before I click the green check mark to accept this gradient that I've added to my screen, let's just say I want to try flipping these two colors because I want to see how they would look if they were heading the other direction. I just click this little reverse symbol and they flip like that. And let's say even though I'm on a new layer, I want to only fill in the wall color here with the gradient and not necessarily the desk or my photo frame. All I have to do is make sure that the toggle sample all layers is turned on. If it's not, I'm filling the entire screen, but if it is turned on, I will only fill in the area. We are seeing a little bit of bleed here on the photograph, air quote, the air quote photograph. A way to change that bleed is to adjust the tolerance level, and that is the sliding scale going left to right here. I'm gonna go ahead and bring that tolerance level way down and then try this again. And now notice that my gradient fill is no longer bleeding into the photograph. So I'm gonna go ahead and accept that. All the same information applies for the radial fill as did for the gradient or solid fill as well. One of the other things that is really fun to do, just tap on these three circles. These are your color adjustment functions. And then I like to go in here to HSL and just sort of shift this hue slider left to right to see if there's something in here that I really like or enjoy. And if you tap on these scales next to the HSL color icon, it'll bring up this color balance window and you will be able to adjust this the same way. Just move the sliders left and right and that will bring up some different, potentially more satisfying color adjustments for you. Moving right along on this toolbar, the next icon we have is the ruler icon. We are able to use a straight edge. We can go ahead and use this curved ruler. And right here on screen, these little pop-up windows are already giving me the information that I need on how to use them. So just go ahead and read this little pop-up box. Perspective tools right next to the rulers is going to allow you to try some fun perspective with 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, 3-point perspective, and where the grid lies on your canvas. You can do that just by clicking down on these points and moving them where you want them to sit. Once you have them exactly where you want them, click on this little padlock on your perspective menu and that will lock your perspective guide so that drawing on here isn't going to accidentally touch one of those points and move your grid. Symmetry tool is particularly great for creating symmetry, particularly if you are doing something that you want to be very symmetrical, such as a face, which this is certainly not the best example of. We'll fill tank this fella in with some green there and we'll just say it's a drawing of an alien. Symmetry tools at their finest. Next to the y-axis symmetry is your x-axis symmetry, so vertical and horizontal symmetry here, and then we also have radial symmetry. This squiggly line right next to that is going to be your stroke stabilizer. I click on this and I leave it enabled almost always because without it, my line art is very janky and not very confident. But with it, I'm able to get really nice and smooth lines. So these are going to your basic shape tools. We have a line, a circle, and a rectangle. And next to that is this little photo looking icon, and that is to import images. So like earlier, when I created a new sketch with a blue background, just like this, remember? What I could have done instead of clicking open here and actually opening an image from my library and the canvas size being set to that image. I can instead import an image by clicking this button here. I can import this image to my canvas, and it's going to put it on its own layer. And notice that my canvas size now remains even though this image that I imported is a square. There are a lot of reasons why this might be useful. One of them may be that I am working on a thumbnail for my video and I want to add the images that I drew in that video to my thumbnail, or I want to add a photo of myself to my thumbnail perhaps. I can go ahead and import an image, maintain this aspect ratio for this canvas size, and then go in here, move those layers around to where I need them. So I want to put the image on this side and say I want to put text on screen. That is the very next button on the top toolbar, is the text editor. I can go in here and I can click on this keyboard to type in some text, and I can adjust my fonts by going over here to the font menu and pick a font out, as well as change the color of my text. So let's say I want to make this very orange color because I have a blue background, so why not? We'll go with the orange. We will now use the transform tools, and there we go. This is not the way I'm going to do my thumbnail for this video, but it is a quick demo of how you could create a thumbnail. Let's go ahead and look at the layer editor because that is very important. So the background color, again, I just like to keep my colors a little bit darker so that I'm sparing my eyeballs a little bit here. And then for your first layer, you automatically start with this normal layer, and it's a blank layer. And if I want to come in here and start drawing something, there we go. So say I want to draw something on that layer. Now let's go ahead and create a new layer. I will just click this dotted circle inside the layer that I currently have on screen, and that will bring up a bunch of icons that will allow me to do different things. The icon directly above is a plus sign, and that is to add layer. So I'll go ahead and add layer, and let's use this layer to fill in this color. Other things I can do with that layer, with those pop-up icons, is delete the layer, which is the little trash can here. Or if I come over here to this double piece of paper, it will duplicate my layer. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I have 2 copies of that same layer. I can delete that layer. I can hide a layer by clicking directly to the left. Little eyeball icon, if you click on that, you'll be able to hide that layer. If you click it again, it'll reveal the layer. There's a padlock down here so you can lock layers if you don't want to accidentally draw on that layer. There's other things you can do, such as merge down, so merge all layers. If I want to combine this fill color layer with the outline layer that I drew, I can do that by clicking merge all. Directly to the right is the rename layer. So now I can give this layer a name. That is really useful for organizing your layers once you've created a lot of them. And then the final thing that we can do down here is the merge with below. This won't merge all layers. This will just merge the layer that you are currently selecting with the layer directly beneath it. So we'll go ahead and do that. This padlock over here is not going to lock your layer, but it will lock your transparency. This is so useful if you want to be able to color on top of something you've already created without going outside of it. So you lock that transparency, and then I'll be able to go in here with, let's say we will pick a new color, this blue color, and draw on my canvas. I'm dragging my pen all over the canvas, but it's only coloring inside the pixels that I locked on screen. There's one more thing we can do on the layers editor, and it's blend mode. So depending on which layer I have selected, once I click on this drop down arrow right across from the word normal here at the top, I will see all these different blend modes, and I can test them out if I want to try a color burn, a lighten blend mode, screen, color dodge, and this will be a little bit, the effects of this will be a little bit more notable if we change the background color here so we have something underneath it. Multiply, which I think is really useful for painting in shadows. Let's go up here to normal mode, which is just a normal layer. Like add new. Now with this new layer, let's say I want to create shadows. Well, I like to use the multiply layer to create shadows. I don't want them to be incredibly harsh shadows. What I can do is lower the opacity of the layer by grabbing this little slider here and dragging it down. And then going in here, let's say we want to create a drop shadow, but I could also do a drop shadow underneath it. How this would look if I used a different blend mode, like screen, for instance, it would look like highlights. Or better yet, instead of screen, let's try color dodge. And it just gives it that nice pop of highlight, the nice pop of brightness. So now our star looks like it is being lit from below. So we went from shadow, as if it was lit from above, to, depending on your blend mode, a highlight as if it is lit from below. All right, and that is how you use Autodesk on a Windows computer or Surface Pro. It's free, it's wonderful, I love it. And if you're interested in any other specific kind of tutorial, let me know, because I have made Autodesk Sketchbook tutorials for the Mac desktop as well as the iPad, and now on the Windows application, and maybe later on I'll also do a mobile tutorial as well. So if you need any help with anything, let me know. Request it in the comments below, and I will be happy to create a tutorial specifically for you and what it is you are looking to do. Stay tuned, subscribe, like this video, and see you next time. Bye!